Welcome to Kidz podcast, round 17 against the Manly Seagulls at Four Pines Park. Let's get into this.
Welcome back, West Tigers fans. Let's dive straight into this with last match's debrief against the Canberra Raiders.
Okay, the debrief against the Canberra Raiders. There was a pretty good comeback there, but that was a very close one. It was a very close one. How do you reckon the game went?
I reckon that we played pretty well, although Canberra Raiders may have played slightly better, but I feel like the refs also had an impact on that game.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you.
Now going into some of the stats from the game, we had most run meters. Dream Buller absolutely came out firing with the run meters. 214 run meters, most in the game, compared to Raiders' most 140, Matthew Timoko.
Well, I am very surprised about that call there, but keep going, Mitch.
Most tackles, of course, the hooker, the one, the only, Apsai Coruscant.
Yes, very agree with that one. Yeah. And now with the possession, the Tigers actually had more possession, 54 to 46 in possession. And now we have time in possession, 30 minutes, 40 against 27 minutes and 7. How do you reckon our possession went, Mitchell?
I reckon we held the ball pretty well throughout our sets. 30 minutes to 27 minutes, beaten by about 3.5 minutes. So I reckon we did that pretty well. But looking at our completion rate, I feel like that's our problem, 68% to 82%. Raiders were dominating us in the completion rates.
Well, that's a very high one between two teams.
And then we have run meters. We beat them by just under 400 run meters, 1,800 to 1.45 thousand.
That is a lot between all run meters. I reckon the Canberra Raiders just had more energy and more tries in them that game.
Now, equal line breaks. Very surprising. Just 4 line breaks between them. Nothing matching them, 4 all each. Interesting fact, Raiders, all of their line breaks happened in the first half, which shows that our defence, we really turned on in defence in the second half. How do you reckon we did that?
Oh, I don't know. I reckon at the halftime talk, Benchy put some of his Benchy magic in the West Tigers, so I reckon he told us what defence we need to do and turn ourselves on, but we just didn't get quite there.
Talking about turning ourselves on, tackle breaks. An absolute smashing by the West Tigers, 46 tackle breaks to 25. That just shows how strong we are up the middle.
Yeah, I very agree with that.
Now we are moving to average play the ball speed. We had way better average play the ball speed, 3 seconds to 3.85 seconds. That's pretty quick play the balls. Now moving on to passing. We have offloads. As usual, we do a lot of offloads, one of the most in the whole competition. Now, just an interesting fact for you guys. Dummy passes. We had one of the most ever in the NRL, 71 dummy passes just in one game. That's one of the most ever compared to Raiders, just 8. 71 to 8.
That is a lot of dummy passes. It's almost all passes in the game. No, I'm only joking.
Now, kicking pretty average from us with our kicking meters, but in attacking kicks, we forced 4 dropouts. It's pretty good. Both kick defusals were pretty bad from both teams. Only 33% for the Tigers and 38% for the Raiders. I really noticed that last Friday night, actually, that we were not doing very good at kicks. We're good at contesting them, but so were the Raiders. Now to wrap out last match's stats for our debrief, we have negative play, 16 errors to 11. Now, penalties conceded. It felt like a lot more. 4 penalties conceded to 3. Tigers with 4, Raiders with 3. Now, I feel like they got a lot more penalties than us, but apparently it was only by 1. Now, something that I reckon the ref way could have improved on was ruck infringements. 6 to 2. How did a Raiders player not get sin binned?
Yeah.
There was about a few sets where there was at least 2 ruck infringements in there.
Yeah, I agree with you there. There should have been a sin bin there. At the ground, we're all yelling, "Someone get binned!" But that's the game. Alright, now we move on in from round 16 to round 17. Let's do this.
Let's forget about last week and move on. So now moving on to round 17. Again, we are versing the Manly Seagulls this week at 6 p.m. A little bit of a later game at 6 p.m. Not as late as last week, obviously. Friday, 27th of June at 4 Pines Park. Tune in on Fox League. Now moving on to the team lists.
Okay, for Manly, we'll do their team first. In the number 1 jersey, a bit of a change up here. Lehigh Hopewati in fullback. Usually it's Tom Tavoyevich. It's a bit of a shake-up. What do you think about that shake-up, Mitchell?
Oh, I reckon it's interesting. Tom Trbojevic doesn't play centre unless he's usually playing for the Blues. But now that Lehigh Hopewati has moved into fullback, I'd like to see how that goes with Tom Trbojevic, hoping to be on the ball a little bit more in the centres.
Okay, now in the number 2, we've got Tommy Talau, a former Tiger. And then now in the number 3, Tola Tukula. How do you say that?
Tolukola.
And now in the number 4, the shake-up, Tom Tavoyevich. And in the number 5, Ruben Garrick. Number 6, Luke Brooks, a former Tiger. And number 7, Dally Chevins, the captain.
Now, Ruben Garrick, I reckon he could be a potential threat, but most wingers are potential threats against our wingers. Moving on to the forwards, we have, in the prop positions, we have Matthew Lodge and Siosha Takiaho. Most people don't know this, but Matthew Lodge, actually a former Tiger. Now, number 9, we have Jazz Tavaga. Number 10, we already went through. Number 11, we got Corey Waddell. Number 12, Ben Trbojevic. And number 13, Drake Trbojevic. We have all Trbojevic brothers playing in this matchup.
The forwards were pretty normal as usual. Some bit surprising, but I reckon it's pretty normal for the Manly Seagulls. Now, going into the interchange. We have number 14, Jake Simpkin, a former Tiger, and number 15, Ethan Bullimore. Number 16, Nathan Brown, and number 17, Turfy Sipley. And going back to Nathan Brown's a former Tiger. Alright, let's get into the reserves.
Now, what a surprise! A former Tiger in the reserves, Michael Cheekham, as 18th man. Then we have Jason Saab, who has been dropped from the Manly side.
Pretty surprising.
Very surprising. Fastest man in the whole NRL. Now, number 20, Clayton Fololo. Number 21, Joey Walsh. Number 22, Caleb Neville.
And going back to Olakau'atu, he is out of the game. Right, back to you, Mitch.
Now going to the ins and outs for both teams. ins for the Manly Seagulls, Jake Simpkin, Lehigh Hopewadi, and Matthew Lodge. And the outs for Manly, Hamali Olakwatu and Lachlan Croker.
Okay, let's get into the Tigers team, your team. Now we have number 1, Heath Mason. Jareem Buller injured, I think it was a hamstring on the last catch of the game. And then now we have Heath Mason playing in 1. And 2, Sania Taluva. And number 3, Adam Dewey. Number 4, Stafford Toa. Number 5, Gerald Skelton. Number 6, we have Jerome Luai, because Heath Mason is now playing in fullback. Now we have number 7, Latu Fainu. Bit of a change up for that, because Jerome's injured. What do you think about the backs, Mitchell?
Now, talking about halves, we've had a lot of halves mix-ups over the year. We've had many halves pairings. We've got Jerome Luai and Lockie Galvin at the start of the season. We've had Jerome Luai, and last week we've had Jerome Luai and Appy. We've had Jerome Luai and Heath Mason. So many halves pair-ups, but this week it'll be Jerome Luai and Latu Fainu. As I already said, now that Heath Mason moves to the fullback position.
Especially the dog Lockie Galvin with Jerome Luai.
Now going into the forwards, we have our props Terrell May and Fanua Pole. Then we have our hooker Appy Coruscant. And then we have Samuela and Jack Bird in the second row. And Alex Twal at lock.
Okay, going into the interchange, the forwards weren't a very good surprise, apart from Jack Bird and Fanua Pole going into the starting side. Now getting into the interchange, we have number 14, Talon De Silva. Didn't play a minute last week, very surprising. He was warming up a lot during the game, but didn't play a minute. How do you reckon that went for the Tigers without Talon playing a minute?
I don't think it changed up our side a lot. I feel like that Manly really took advantage of using the extra interchange. 8 interchanges to 7 to Manly.
You mean Raiders?
Raiders, yep, sorry. Manly's this week. Then in the rest of the interchange we have Alex Safer, Sione Finu and Tony Sukkar. Now, going back to Sione Finu, all of the Finu brothers, yep, all 3, Latu, Samuela and Sione, have all played for Manly. So it seems like Manly and Tigers have been negotiations in the past few years to swap many players. I think we have given them all our old players, like Michael Cheekham and Matthew Lodge. And we've got all the young juniors, like Samuela, Sione and Latu.
I think we're just swapping teams at this point. Okay, now going into the reserves. We've got 18, Luke Lowley, which is our 18th man. We've got 19, Charlie Murray. 20, Kit Lowley. 21, the 4th Ferrari, Charlie Staines. And 22, Tristan Hope.
Now our ins and outs. No ins this week into the actual side. And outs, of course, Dream Buller with his 1-month hamstring injury. I reckon this game could be a very interesting battle between the Tigers and the Seagulls, with us being in 14th and Manly being in 10th. Now, I reckon this game can be won in loss just based off our backs, I reckon. Especially our wingers. We let Jed Stewart score 3 or 4 tries on debut on our wing. And as I said, our under the high ball only 33% to 38%. So I feel like this game will be from bomb defusal and just scoring in our wings and in our attack.
Okay, yeah. Dangers, I definitely agree with you with the dangers, especially with Jed Stewart on his debut performing a lot of tries and some good talent. He might become a good player. But going back to the Tigers Manly game, both backs are pretty good. Yeah, going back to you, Mitchell.
Okay, so as I said, how many games we won and lost? I feel like if the Tigers can start early, like they started in the second half, I reckon we can go out early and score a couple tries. But if it ends up being like last week again and we have to come back in the second half, I feel like it's very unlikely.
Okay, now my chances of the game, especially at Four Pines Park with Manly, if they run fast and get away early, it's pretty hard for a team to chase them down. Do you agree with me?
I totally agree. At 4 times past, the fans will be up. The fans will be up and in our face if Manly get out to an early lead.
Especially at 6 o'clock. Time for a new segment of Tiger Kidz podcast.
A new segment called Captain's Challenge. We will both have a joint challenge. Our challenge for this week is we do not think Jared Sutton should be refing our game this week. Sin Bin Sutton sent 2 of our players to the bin last time we refed our game. We are challenging the decision of our referee and touchies.
I think you're a bit wrong now. I don't think there should be a ref because of how bad they've been to us. Man, this is crazy.
And that's our captain's challenge for this week. Obviously, it will be an unsuccessful challenge because as we're Tigers fans, we never get any captain's challenges correct. As for last week with that stupid hair pull, how did we lose that?
He was offside anyways when he kicked it.
Okay, so that's our captain's challenge. We will see you in the next segment. Time for our Tiger News section of this week's podcast. Potential signings. It looks like our early deal with Marcus Paul has been shut down. We'll still go next year, but we will also probably still have talent for the rest of the year, as we were discussing a potential deal with an early signing of Carpius Paul, where we give the Knights Talon to Silver. Now over to you, Reece, to your news.
Yes, I've heard some news about some rumours about that Dewey might be going over to Para in the next couple of years, especially with Taylor May coming into the side in the next couple years.
Talking of Taylor May, he's making New South Wales Cup debut for the Magpies this week. We saw him at Campbelltown Sports Stadium, walking into the ground to watch the Tigers game. Let's hope we see him in first grade in a few weeks.
Got a quick photo as well.
That was nice. Now, to Origin selections, hopefully Laurie Daly comes to his senses and chooses Terrell, maybe even Appy if he really comes to his senses and realises Reece Robson is just a robot. So hopefully Terrell will be in the blue side and we get to see another Tiger in the blue and black.
But also, if they do get picked, it's kind of a disadvantage, but also for the Blues as well, because they won't be playing next week if they get picked next weekend. That's a bit of a disadvantage. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, I completely agree. If they do get picked in 2 weeks, I think it is, they won't be able to back up for the Tigers, which is pretty sad. That's all for Tiger News. Now let's move on to our tips for this week. Time for this week's tips. First game, Thursday night at Combank. We have Panthers who are fighting for their place in the 8 against the Bulldogs who are still top of the table.
Yeah, especially with the Penrith at Combank Stadium getting their players back from Origin. I reckon that game would be a pretty close one. But I reckon if the Bulldogs pull away quickly, the Bulldogs can come with that. So I'm going to tip the Bulldogs for that one.
I'm just going to tip the Bulldogs. I reckon they'll just be too dominant for the Panthers. Considered the new Panthers of 2025, as some call it. So I reckon I got Bulldogs by a decent margin.
And then on Friday night, which you already know who will pick, Tigers versus Manly. We all pick the Tigers. Now the second game on Friday night, we've got the 8 p.m. game, Knights versus the Raiders. It's a pretty close one, especially with Raiders having a couple of wins in the past couple of weeks. But the Knights are at home. Raiders are in second and Knights are in 13th, but I reckon the Knights will have a pretty lucky one, especially at home. I reckon they can take the win. So I'm tipping the Knights.
I'm going complete opposite. I'm going Raiders. I feel like we have beaten the Knights by a pretty decent margin, I think it was. And Raiders just beat us. Raiders off the back of a couple wins. I'm tipping the Raiders by another decent amount of a margin.
Okay, now time for Saturday, the 28th of June. We've got the Broncos versus the Warriors at 3 p.m. at Suncorp Stadium. It could be a pretty close one, especially with 5th versus 4th, fighting for 5th and 4th. But it'll be a pretty close one, especially with the Broncos getting a lot of fans, especially at home. Won't be much Warriors fans because their home is in Auckland. So I'm going to tip the Broncos on that game.
Oh, I completely agree. I feel like Broncos might come out early and just take the lead, and I don't think they'll ever look back. I'm going Broncos.
Yeah, the Broncos players are looking very fit right now. Okay, the second game on Saturday, we've got the Dragons v Para at 5:30 at Wynn Stadium. It's actually a pretty hard one to tip, especially with Dylan Brown coming back from, I think it was an injury, and still Mitchell Moses at injury, still got a couple weeks left. But it's a pretty close one. Just gonna go with the Dragons because I have a little bit more of advantage at home.
I think we remember last time they versed Parramatta, Zach Lomas kicks field goal to win it. So I feel like Dragons won't be letting that happen again against 15th place Eels. I'm going Dragons.
I totally agree.
Now we have the second game on third game on Saturday. We have the Dolphins versus the Rabbitohs. Rabbitohs 16th place. How can you finish behind the Eels? That's disgraceful. Now we have the Dolphins in ninth. 7:50 p.m. game, late game. How do you reckon this one will go?
Well, it's not really close, but it can be close if the Rabbitohs come out early. Dolphins at home at Suncorp Stadium. I reckon it'll be a very hard one, but I reckon one team will just come out and win by a pretty big margin. I reckon that team will be the Dolphins. So I tip the Dolphins.
I agree. Unless Latrell Mitchell can put on a masterclass like he did with the Blues, I feel like I've got Dolphins for that game.
Yep. Now we've got the Storm versus the Sharks on Sunday, the 29th of June at 2 p.m. at Amy Park in Melbourne. Especially with 3rd versus 6th just doubling the thing. Storm been playing a very good season. Same with the Sharks. It's a very hard one this week for all these games to do our tips. But this week for the Storm versus the Sharks, I'm going to have to go with the Sharks.
I actually don't agree with you this time. I feel like Storm, I don't really have a reason for it. I just feel like they'll be very dominant this week against the Sharks and really just cover them on all aspects, backs, forwards, and everything.
Okay, the final game and second game on Sunday, 4:05, Titans v the Cowboys at Cuba Stadium, Gold Coast. Titans versus the Cowboys. Titans in 17th and Cowboys in 12th. That could be a very close one, but I'm probably going to go with the Cowboys on that one because of the ladder chance. It's a pretty close one.
Yes, Titans at home at Bus Super Stadium. I feel like This one, I feel like it'll be actually a pretty close game. Like, Titans are pretty desperate for a win. I feel like Cowboys will win it just by the littlest margin.
And now we've got the bye, the Roosters now.
And that's the full-time whistle for the Tiger Kidz podcast. Thanks for listening to another episode, and stay tuned for our preview for the Tigers Roosters game at Avalon. Remember to tune in 6 p.m. at 4 Pines Park. I will see you next time.
Peace!
Go Tigers.